this paper has been tortured for years, and it's finally getting its way out in a journal without much change from the original work. And imagine if the world knew in 2021 about myocarditis, and this wasn't suppressed. All right, this signal now is. I mean, I was just with Peter 2 days ago on Saturday, and he gave a presentation on myocarditis and the fact that something they think they may have a better handle on this now, but they're finding ways to do a better job clearing the spike protein with a variety of things like bromelain and curcumin and I think the other one was nattokinase. But generally, in myocarditis, prognosis is like 50% fatality in 5 years, right? So and they may have done this to hundreds of thousands of people. It's like it's insane. And what you'll find the cover up that occurs is they'll say, well, the virus does that too. And the way they'll fabricate those stories is they'll do a publication showing that here's a population of people that got the virus and didn't get the virus, and they won't talk about the vaccine status in the paper. And they'll say, look, the people with the virus got more. Yeah, of course, if they got the virus and they got vaccinated, it's going to be worse. They got spiked twice.
Right. And what is the connection? What is the correlation with people who did get myocarditis? Was there any sort of pattern there?
Well, there was with the vaccine. It's now on the label. Like for the people who claim this isn't happening, like even the regulators have finally had to cough this one up. Like it's on the label.
It's on the COVID vaccine label.
Yeah, this can cause myocarditis. Like they've admitted to that on at the FDA site as well, right? Is that that's ResearchGate? But the
find that label, Steve-O.
The myocarditis story, I think why John's an interesting discussion on this is that he has the death records and he will tell you the myocarditis is the tip of the iceberg. There's way worse shit going on with his vaccine than myocarditis.
Well, 50% death rate is pretty substantial.
Yes, and Peter's been backing off of that now, being like they think they may have gotten a way to clear the spike protein now, that they can extend that. But before them having those treatment options, he was worried that was the prognosis of someone with myocarditis prior to them finding a way of eliminating some of the spike protein, but they are hopeful that number is going to go down with the treatments that they've come across. I think you'll probably find a notice from the FDA about myocarditis. I don't know if they'll actually fit it on those tiny labels.
Go to the FDA's website.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so
there you go. Update myocarditis.
Update on myocarditis. FDA. Okay, click on that. This came out in June 2022. Wow.
Yeah, it took them a while.
2 years ago. What is the summary of this? Go down.
This is the VRBAC committee. That's a
PDF.
Okay. Blah, 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 blah. What is is there like a summary or like a?
It's just like a brochure.
Keep going. Yeah, but keep scrolling. You'll find.
I've spoken at one of these VRBAC meetings. I think this is probably.
Okay, go up to that last one. Zoom in on the one with the chart on it, the red bars on it. Verified U.S. reports of VAERS of myocarditis after mRNA COVID-19 vaccination among people ages 18 years and older following primary series of first booster by time to symptom onset and dose number. Okay, so it's saying 1, 2, 3. That is the time to symptom onset.
Yeah.
And then the second column is verified reports. So the most verified reports is 3 days, and there's 250 reports. This is confusing. I don't know what this means.
Yeah, what you can see there is a dose response. I mean, that's what you'll see in Jessica's paper, and what Jessica and Peter did is they put this through what's known as the Bradford Hill criteria. So if you want to try and derive causation from correlative information, because that's where everyone goes to defend against this is it's just correlation,
right?
But it's a lot of correlation. So what Bradford Hill makes you go and do is you got to show that there's a temporal connection, that it's within close temporal proximity of the actual dose that this happens. You have to show a biological trend in that the more dose creates more problem, which they have here, right?
Okay.
So there's about 10 of these criteria in Bradford Hill that go through that help you determine whether something can be deemed causative or correlative. And they've satisfied Bradford Hill criteria on this one, on myocarditis. That's what her paper goes through. Is that, there's a time connection, there's a biological mechanism, there's a dose response to this, and that got suppressed for 3 years.
Go to the next slide, Steve. 1,321 reports, what? verified using CDC case definition.
Well, that's a word salad right there.
Yeah.
When CDC gets involved with case definition, they end up bearing most of it. But there are papers now out that look at autopsies that McCullough's been involved in, and it's something like that's the cold hard truth. And not enough autopsies were done. But when he was looking through autopsies, it was something like 70 to 75% of the cases they could pin to the vaccine. Whereas when it goes to the CDC's hands, it's like 7% or something. They start playing all these games, being like, well, it could have been something else. But kids don't get myocarditis. This is one that's really overt that they kind of had to cough up. I think where the cancer stuff gets messy is it tends to be, sometimes older people. Although that is not holding true with, I was just with Dr. Makis, and he was showing that like the peak of cancer is actually like in the 40s and 50s. So people are getting cancer like 10 years earlier. They're starting to screen earlier because of what's happened. Like they're trying to move the mammograms up 10 years. They're trying to move the colonoscopies up 10 years because that's, in some ways, that will actually hide the signal because you'll get more negatives when you do that. If you open up the scanning window, suddenly change it to 30 instead of 40 for breast cancer, suddenly you'll get a lot more people coming through that don't have it. And so the prevalence rate will go down if they just move the window around on you. But you are picking some people up at those ages, which you shouldn't be. That's what I think is the most shocking thing. And John's data shows us as well that the age demographic shift happened after the vaccine came into play. You could see when COVID was in place, the average age of death in Massachusetts was 82. All right, and the average age of death in Massachusetts is 80. So the vaccine was just the virus was just killing people on the edge of life. Okay. And in Massachusetts data is really clear. And then when the vaccine actually comes into play, the people that are dying are suddenly 10 or 15 years younger. That's not, a virus doesn't do that. A virus doesn't suddenly mutate and decide to kill younger people.
Right.
That's something else that you've added in as a toxin that's bringing it. Not only does the age demographic shift in this data, the types of mechanisms of disease shifts from, in these older age patients that are getting hit with viruses, they're mostly going down with like some sort of secondary pneumonia. What's happening with the people that post-vaccine is you're getting clots, you're getting strokes, you're getting kidney failure, you're getting lymphomas. So it's the age demographic shifted and the type of disease shifted right after the vaccine program, which is a pretty strong signal that this is in fact not a virus changing on us in that regard.
And Jack said that aluminum ties into this story somehow. Is that true?
Well, there is some. So a person we work with on this was Sin Lee. Sin Lee is probably best known in this field for finding DNA contamination in the HPV vaccines. And I don't know that there's aluminum. I heard Jack say something about that. I have not measured for any aluminum in these vaccines, so I can't comment on that and whether it's in there. But the older vaccines do tend to have aluminum, and the problem with aluminum is it does bind DNA and pull it out of the solution. So sometimes the tools you use to measure DNA miss it. So it's a great way of camouflaging residual DNA in a vaccine is throw some aluminum in there, and all the aluminum soaks up the DNA so that the PCR tools don't see it. So Sin figured that out and was able to sequence parts of the HPV vaccines genetic constructs that they used to make it. And he's been complaining about that for probably over 5 or 6 years now. And again, the FDA just said it's move along, nothing to see here. But I don't know if that's playing any role in this event other than there is some literature out there regarding the efficiency of transfection. Lipid nanoparticles are really good at getting DNA into cells. In vaccines that don't have them, sometimes people use calcium phosphatase or other metals that will help move DNA into the cell. So there's some research that needs to be done as whether or not this aluminum DNA adjuvant actually has any level of transfection capacity. I suspect it's a lot lower than LNPs, but it may in fact facilitate some level of DNA entry into other cells.